I once worked with an extremely skilled software developer. This is many years ago, and I'm not gonna tell you who. But the guy is the by far best, most skilled software developer I have ever worked with in my entire life. And he worked for me for 5 months. And the task was fairly simple. He was going to create an onboarding system, the backend parts, only the backend parts, for an onboarding system allowing people to create cloudlets, being Kubernetes deployments of Magic Cloud. I wrote user stories for him and workboard items. And at the top of my priorities was an HTTP endpoint. I took a username and a password and returned a valid JWT token. After 2 months, I started becoming a little bit restless, and I started asking him, where's my endpoint? And he would go on towards the whiteboard and show me his architecture. It was based upon event sourcing, Scylla DB, Pulsar, the message broker. It had an extremely well thought out DDD architecture. It's using every imaginable complex design pattern you can imagine. He couldn't even use only one side of the whiteboard. He had to flip the whiteboard halfway through his explanation. Even though he was writing with very small characters and small boxes, he still managed to make the whiteboard black, literally, with ink, and had to even turn it around to the other side to just fit room for his architecture. So after 2 months I became a little bit restless, and I started asking him, where's my endpoint? After 3 months, no endpoint. 4 months, no endpoint. After 5.5 months, I told him to please leave. I fired him. And then I started my own IDE, and I created the method such that our front-end developer could actually continue doing her work. And I finished the authentication API endpoint in 20 minutes. So I did in 20 minutes what he could not accomplish in 5.5 months. And please notice that this is the by far strongest software developer I have ever worked with as a colleague in the entirety of my life. And he was working non-stop. I mean, I was sitting besides him in the office and looking at the guy working, and the guy was working. It's very, very hard work. But I did in 20 minutes what he could not do in 5.5 months. If you have developers like this, just get rid of them. You know, they're hung up in superstitious religious belief systems, dictating that they basically have to manufacture 1,000 times the amount of code for flexibility reasons and future reasons and scalability reasons. But it's all just bullshit. I mean, my authentication API endpoint is 1 billion times more scalable than his. First of all, I can, scale up to multiple pods my deployment if I'm having CPU issues. I can, use PostgreSQL as, my backend database, which tolerates like 50 to 100,000 inserts and shit like that per second, right? So, for all practical concerns, my 20-minute solution was probably 1,000,000 times more scalable than whatever he had come up with if he had managed to actually create my fucking authentication endpoint in some 5 years or something. You see, not only did he not do his job, but everybody else was waiting for the guy too, right? I mean, my front-end developer couldn't move on with her tasks before he was done with the fucking authentication HTTP endpoint. So not only was he not doing his job and his duties, but he was sabotaging the rest of the company's ability to perform their tasks. Without actually implying to do that, of course. I mean, he wasn't a malicious guy, he was just a very, very ignorant guy. And that's why you need to fire your best developer. If your best software developer is anything closely resembling this guy, throw him out the fucking window. The faster you get rid of the guy, the faster your company can heal. Have a nice day.